Jennifer Lynn here from Para Is My Normal, and today I wanted to do just a quick video to go over some of the equipment we're using here at Ohio State Reformatory this weekend. So really, if you're going to Ohio State and you're wondering what equipment do you need to investigate there, truthfully, the answer is something really simple. A flashlight. It's really dark. Minimalistic, all you need is a flashlight, and because most of the things we get are actually audible, I would suggest a digital voice recorder. That's honestly all you need. You can keep it simple. There's no need for all the fancy gadgets, all the things out there. If you're just going to experience a location, our bodies and our senses actually tell us a lot about what's going on. So the simplest things are a flashlight and a digital voice recorder, right? For EVPs and then this to see, but also if you wanted to do like a flashlight experiment where you can, slightly disconnect the battery and you can see if something can make the connection to turn the flashlight on and off in responses, those are the easiest things to use. Now, we are gonna be using a couple other pieces of equipment here because there's some other things we're trying to do. We like gathering data and we wanna see some things and get a better understanding of what it is in the environment we're working with. So another thing that we've been keeping with us on our investigations is a data logger. Now this one is a new one because the battery in my other one just died, but it's the same idea. This actually, when you start it, will track the temperature, the barometric pressure, and the humidity in the air. And this is great because when you walk around and you feel like you're sensing a difference or you feel that cold spot, a data logger actually tracks the temperature and all that. So you can actually see if things really are changing. Also, it helps to correlate anything that you're experiencing back to the data to see if something in the environment changed while these other things were happening. And over time, you can start to draw correlations to maybe certain things happen within certain pressures or temperatures or, the different drops in the area. So I really like, being the science nerd I am, the data logger because it gives me more contextual information that I feel is important for really understanding what's happening. Again, along the line of contextual information, this is a newer piece of equipment. If you followed us, you see that we use this at Eloise, is where we just started to use it a couple weeks ago. This is the GS2 laser grid. This is from Ghost Stop, and what I really like about this is its temperature, its distance, and it also creates a laser grid in the background to where if the beams are broken, it registers here on the screen, and the LEDs actually light up colors, blue or red, to show if it's getting hotter or colder, if it's coming closer or far away, and it actually, on the LED screen, can show you shapes too, which is really cool. So if a person's walking up, you actually see a full figure of a person, and it'll be red because it's typically warmer than the baseline temperature around. So something like this is really great. And I believe in using multiple things together to help corroborate. So because this is temperature and distance, the data logger I would use with this, along with some sort of proximity sensor, something else that can dictate or detect if something is interacting in the area. So what else I would use with that would be potentially our music box. I love the music box. You've probably seen them on millions of shows out there. This one I really like too because you don't have to calibrate it. Just because I'm putting it on the ceiling so it sees it's there. So this is great because it's the PMB Paraforce PMB Polter Tune, and this, whenever something's within about a meter and a half, it breaks the beam and it will play this wonderful music. So this also can be used as a trigger object because because of the music box mechanism here is something that typically, no matter how old a spirit would be, they may recognize it as being something that plays music. So if you're in an area that music was especially a part of the lore, something like this would be really great because it might entice something to interact with it. And again, because there is a sensor, if someone is coming up or something's breaking that beam, then it would also alert you. So this is a great piece of equipment to have. Again, not mandatory at all. Just fun things that we use to play around and to experience things and try to capture the things that might not be able to be seen, right? So I already mentioned the digital voice recorder. This is great because it captures voices that you can't hear with your ears. They're called EVPs, electronic voice phenomenon. And I will say that we have caught so much on digital voice recorders that I think it's really, if you invest in one thing, it's got to be a digital voice recorder. And you do not need to go out there and buy the really expensive ones. I think this one was 40 bucks on Amazon, and it's actually really nice, very clear. It records in WAV format, not MP3, which is really important because you could tend to lose some phenomenon through too much compression, right? So a wave format is less compressed than an MP3 is. So you actually get to truthfully probably hear more in the undertones than if it was overly produced, if you will. So I really do like this. And again, this model in particular was, I think, 40 bucks on Amazon. And it's got really nice features that you can even like plug in and listen to it while it's recording for live audio. It's just really cool. And it's got the 2 microphones here, so it's really sensitive. We're actually blown away by how much it picks up so far away from us. So in that, it's also important that you work really hard on debunking what you're hearing. So again, having multiple things going in addition to a digital voice recorder, we typically have cameras rolling, not necessarily just to capture us, but also to capture the environment in which we catch the EVPs. So we can see, was there potentially something else that made the noise that we just happened to catch on our recorder? So as much as it's fun picking up things and catching things, it's also important that you try to debunk as much as possible just to validate that it truly is something unexpected, and that makes it more compelling. So I mentioned earlier that a music box could be used as a trigger object. We're going to Ohio State Reformatory, and another reason we have so much equipment for this is it's a very large location. I think 250,000 square feet, 5-6 stories of cells, also a basement and a sub-basement for solitary confinement, and a whole administrative building. It is a very large location. So with that, you know, we use different equipment in different areas, and it's important that you kind of understand what potentially could be. If there's more visuals, you might want equipment that is able to capture more of the visual aspects. If it's more audible, you want to make sure you have equipment that can capture the audio, right? So saying that Polter tune was a good trigger object because of the mechanism in it that makes it a music box. At the jail we're going to, the reformatory, we're going to be bringing some playing cards as well. And this can be a great trigger object because, you know, what did people do in the penitentiary? You know, often play cards. This is a pastime that they would have been allowed to do. So sometimes bringing an object that has relevance to the location or even the specific spirit, if there's some that are known, could be really good because it might entice and compel some activity. So, yeah, in doing research about Ohio State Reformatory, you know, we know that it has a very long history, and we know that it started out as a reformatory for, let's say, like people who were just too old to be in juvenile detention. So this was really made for people who were not really young, but also were not big offenders, right? Could be pickpockets, could be writing bad checks, like really things that were very nominal, and it was to reform them. So they had to go to school, they had to go to church, they had to learn a trade, and they truly reformed them. And that was back when it was first built, right? But over the years, more and more criminals were admitted. And then once the Madison jail actually burned down and they lost, I think, 200 inmates and guards, the other 200 to 300 remaining got moved into the reformatory because it was the only space they really had available, into the attic on the West Cell block. So there you started the introduction of a lot of more hardened criminals. We're talking rapists, we're talking murderers, we're talking like truly bad criminals. Then you have the overpopulation that started to happen, right? So over time, we had more and more criminals of varying, so it moved from being that reformatory to truly being a penitentiary, a jail. And the thing with it is in 1990, the jailmates all band together and they actually sued the reformatory for inhumane conditions because they were spending up to 23 hours a day confined in these very small cells. And in our other videos, we've shown pictures, and I might even put some pictures here to show what those cells are. They are really narrow. So imagine having multiple people in a cell that was originally designed for maybe one person, at most 2, and you might have many more than that in there in 23 hours a day. Like that really ended up being horrific conditions for the inmates. So they were able to petition, they won, and then Ohio State Reformatory got shut down, and then they built actually the jail that's behind it right now. So on the north side of the building, there's actually a fully operational federal prison, highly postered all over the place that you're actually not allowed to take any pictures or anything out that side of the building. And in fact, if you go outside to that side of the building for like a smoke break, or if you just need to go outside for a little bit, there's warnings all over that once you leave a certain part of the asphalt, you're on federal land and you may get arrested. So they take it very seriously there. So I just mentioned that to say, you know, some of the equipment, some of the things that happen, there's a long history here. So we definitely try to pick and choose the areas that are kind of important to us and figure out how to interact best in there, just to trial and error and see what works. So the playing cards we figured would be a good one, because if you're stuck in a cell for 23 hours a day, I mean, there's only so much you can do to keep yourself mentally stimulated, right? So we figured that's a quick and easy one we can bring, and it's pretty low impact in terms of size and weight. Because actually, if you do go to Ohio State Reformatory to investigate, you cannot bring book bags. Cannot bring backpacks. You're only allowed a small like hip bag, or a really small bag like a camera bag. They're actually not allowed anything larger than that, only because people have started to take things from the jail. And because of that, they said, you know what, no more. We want to limit that. So be very mindful what you're bringing in. Now, again, we have a lot of equipment. So you're thinking, how's that being mindful? You can only bring in small amounts. What are you doing? Well, we keep it in our car and we figure out the area we want to be in and what tools would be best used for that area. It's a very long investigation. We actually have from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. So it is an 8-hour investigation. And because of that, we are able to go to our car and get things we want to bring back into the building and set up in the areas. So we don't carry all of this around with us. In my pack that I carry with me, you know, I'll have the digital voice recorder in my pocket. I'll have the Polter Tune with me in my pack that does fit. And then, you know, the rest of these are small equipment. We're not bringing anything really large. This also fits in the bag too. So actually on my fanny pack, I'm able to carry everything I need. And then of course we have cameras. So I use my cell phone a lot to capture things because it's quick and easy and everyone has them. Great for pictures. iPhone with the live photograph is great for taking pictures, because if you can't take a burst photo where it takes 3 in a row so you can see if there's differences, the iPhone live feature actually is great, because when you take a picture, it captures multiple seconds on either side of the picture you take, so you actually are able to see if anything is moving. Now, camera-wise, I have a full spectrum GoPro type camera and full spectrum with a full spectrum light. So full spectrum here means infrared and ultraviolet, as well as visible light. So I literally will turn this on. You can see right now, you can't see. And actually, I'll just shut off the visible light. And you can see kind of the UV light. You cannot see that the rest of these are all ultraviolet, infrared. And then it has visible light here. And I usually keep it to red, because in the dark, red lights don't trigger your night vision. You as people. It doesn't affect how your eyes adjust to being in the dark. So you can turn on a red light and it doesn't make you go, oh, I can't see anything. So it's not like a white light where it really changes your eyes to dilate. So a full spectrum camera is great because it can take videos and pictures in all spectrums of light, because we don't know in what spectrum spirits may exist. Right? So we don't know if it's even possible for us to see them. So something like a full spectrum just captures more data, more information. So this is something that we use a lot in our investigations. If you ever see our videos and they have like a purplish tinge to them, it's because we're using the full spectrum there. And then we use infrared cameras quite a bit as well, because seeing in the night, infrared is night vision. So we use a lot of night vision cameras, so we're able to see around the building first and foremost, and be able to see if things are lurking in the dark. And then the final thing I'm bringing this time is from our friends over at Relatively Paranormal. Love the ingenuity out of them. This is actually a static meter. And what I love about this is great because it will not pick up man-made electromagnetic fields. This only picks up static charges. You can see I just created static and moved it away. So it shows that the ions, this is moving away from the source, and the blue would be if it's moving towards it. So I really like this because if you're picking up a lot of static electricity in the air, or you have a lot of equipment going off, something like a static meter can show you right away if it's due to interaction from other people's electronics. Right, so like REM pods, which we don't have them. People who have REM pods that go off, they can be signaled by someone's walkie-talkie or radio. So if someone has a radio near a REM pod, it could actually be setting it off falsely. So something like this is really great because, again, it won't detect man-made electromagnetic fields, only things naturally. So this is another way to kind of help debunk or validate what you're experiencing. Oh, and then, the final thing I have that I brought with us, just because it's such a large area, in doorways, like a proximity sensor. I use that music box as a proximity sensor, but this, I'm not going to turn it on because it is ridiculously loud. But just like a REM pod, when you get close to this, it detects electromagnetic fields. So if you get close to the antenna, it sets off an alarm. loud. So this is definitely an only use in very large areas situation. So Ohio State Reformatory is a great place. We'll put this at an entryway, and that way we can see if something is moving in and out of it. And it's actually also good just to know if someone is physically moving in an area you're in, especially if you're alone. I always believe in having proximity sensors for your safety. So those are the equipment. That's a little bit more about Ohio State Reformatory. We're really excited to be here this weekend, and we'll be posting up more. See you later.